Hello and welcome to the first of many panel discussions on this channel for the Marvel Cinematic Universe movies. Today, of course, we're going to start with the first of them, which is Iron Man from 2008. And I have got two guests here. The first is Callum.
All right.
And the second is Josh.
Hello.
Right. So before we get into business, I would just like to mention if you want to help support this channel, check us out on Patreon, patreon.com/GenesisOfAndrozani. There is a bunch of tiers in there which allow you access to things like early access to videos, requesting videos, and also some exclusive content. And also it helps us grow this channel bigger and better. And also check us out on Twitter if you like. That's probably the main way that you could get on one of these panel discussions if you like. So yeah, if you wanna be on any of the discussions that we do for any of the other films, then just message G Androzani on Twitter. And obviously, if someone who's watching this who knows me personally, just give me a Facebook message. Right. So now we got that out the way, I think we should start to talk about this movie, Iron Man. So what we're going to do first is I think we should give our initial thoughts on this movie. I'll probably say about 2 minutes, I think is enough time. So seeing as you're the overseas guest, Callum, we'll let you start. Give sort of your 2-minute initial thoughts on the movie Iron Man.
Iron Man, I've only watched it a couple of times since when it first released, and then rewatched it about like a month ago. And I remember watching it after watching all the other MCU films. It's so different to them in terms of just like, it's so simple, but it's hard to describe it as if like, it's just a really fun movie compared to like the others, because it's very basic, but it's also incredibly entertaining. Robert Downey Jr. is perfect casting for Iron Man and Tony Stark. I could not see anybody else playing that role at all. All the supporting cast is fantastic, and I think the story as well is just really, really well done as well.
And is that what you want to say?
Yeah, basically, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. How about you, Josh?
Oh, no, I definitely agree. In terms of like quality in Phase 1, it's probably the best out of all of them, apart from Avengers. But I think, and I definitely agree with how it's different. But I think a massive part of that is because it was done by Paramount, as opposed to most of the MCU, or the rest of the MCU. Like, I think it's just Iron Man and Captain America, they're done by Paramount, and I'm not sure. Oh, was the Hulk done by Paramount as well?
I'm not sure. I haven't. I'll find out next. I'll find out on the next one.
You'll find out next time.
Yes.
I think the thing I love the most about Iron Man is that it doesn't really feel like a superhero movie. I love superhero movies, but for the first half of the film, he's trapped in those caves with the Ten Rings, and it feels more like a war movie. And then it jumps into the superhero vibe when he's taking on Obadiah. So I love how out of place it feels with the rest of the MCU in Phase 1, but the fact that it's also the best one.
Okay, is that all you want to say?
That's it.
Yep. Okay. So this may come to a shock to some people. I first watched this movie last night.
Really?
Yep. I had not seen Iron Man 1 until last night. I did see on Christmas Day, I saw a flash of it because someone in my family was watching it. But I have not seen this movie in full until last night.
Oh, right, okay.
Which is insane. It's insane because
that's crazy.
It's been out for 11 years.
I'm old, man.
Yeah, nearly 11 years.
So it was very strange to watch it this late in the game. But I guess the one word I would use to describe this movie is a very solid start. I would say that's the main thing I take away from Iron Man is that you really couldn't have picked another movie in this series to begin it so impactfully. Even if there is a whole chronological thing, I think this was the perfect choice to start this series, and I feel like it was kind of important that they got this one right in particular. So I'll save my sort of more detailed thoughts for the later bits, but basically overall I would say it's a very, very solid film, and any kind of negatives I have with it aren't major. I'm mostly positive on Iron Man, and I can see why it's such a popular film overall. Right, so we'll go straight into the characters. We'll start with Tony Stark, aka Iron Man. How about we start with Josh? What do you think of Tony Stark, aka Iron Man, in this movie?
I mean, as portrayed by Robert Downey Jr. or just the character himself?
Both.
Well, in terms of the character, I find it so weird because I just finished watching it. Seeing him how he is in the first one, because obviously the later half of the MCU is still very fresh in my mind, so I see Tony Stark in a very different way as opposed to the first Iron Man film, and I'm like, hey, you're a Muppet. You're not a good guy. But
yeah,
I love the transition of him from being that Muppet to becoming a hero. Not, and also changing himself. I mean, obviously the circumstances weren't that great, but change happened, and he became a better man for it.
I think that's a common theme with a lot of Stan Lee's creations, is that he kind of, to contrast to some of DC, especially back in the day, he likes the idea of grounding superheroes. So they do have these special powers, or just in the case of Iron Man, access to power, but they're still people, and they still have flaws, and they still have a lot of growing process, and that makes them. It's interesting because it's like you can look up to them as a superhero, but also relate to them as a person at the same time, and I think it blows me away how relatable this really, really rich guy is as a character. Like that blows me away. What do you think, Alan? Do you like? Sorry, what do you think, Kellen?
I think, like I said in my initial thoughts, I think Robert Downey Jr. is just pitch perfect casting for Iron Man, Tony Stark. I just think that when you look at both of them, Robert Downey Jr. and Tony Stark, they're kind of the same person. Yeah. You kind of feel like when you watch an interview of Robert Downey Jr., you can see him as Tony Stark, and I think that's why he plays him so well in this film, where at the beginning he's pretty much a total arsehole, let's be frank about it, but as the film goes on, he learns that his company is almost the bad guys in a way, and then he wants to do better. He wants to just kind of change his ways, and while he's always changing his ways throughout the whole of the MCU, this is really the start of it, and you see, even in this film alone, how much he changes, but he's still, at the heart, the same person, but he's just trying to be a better person. I think Robert Downey Jr. plays it perfectly, in my opinion.
His life definitely matches up with... No, he's not like... He was never like the kind of like rich billionaire that Tony Stark was, but the transitions he went through in his personal life, as Robert Downey Jr., does in a lot of ways match up with Tony Stark's.
Yeah, and I think that benefits the film as well, and the way that Robert plays this role. I think that benefits it a lot, and you can just relate to the character, even though we're not all billionaires. You can relate to the problems that he has throughout the films.
Yeah, well, I mean, he's got with his company that he's sort of owns, he's got so much responsibility, and especially because it's a company that deals with war weapons. It's something where you are holding power of danger, and you also have very high expectations from certain people. So his position, even though he is technically a billionaire, in terms of the way he is portrayed to the people, he is naturally a divisive figure amongst the public because he is in charge of the just very, I guess you could say, controversial industry.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah, I mean that's how I sort of saw it. It's like yes, he is a billionaire, but you can relate to the fact that he is trying to do maybe not the right thing, but the best thing in his mind, and it's almost impossible to in his position because he's in control of such life-changing ideas and technology. But I love how in the movie he flips it from being destructive into something productive. So when he focuses on using his knowledge of technology to build the suit as opposed to weaponry. And I think my favorite sort of realization or moment in the movie of that is when he's stuck in that terrorist bunker and he's told to make weapons for them, and he uses his smarts to build a machine to get himself out of there. I think that's such a clever way to characterize him, you know?
Yeah, I agree. I think that whole beginning part of the film is, like we said, like it's so different to everything else. It just feels really gritty. It feels really like grounded. I think that's a perfect way to start the film and a perfect way to introduce this character to like the audience. And I think I agree the way he uses when he's told to make, I think it's the Jericho missile again for them, but instead he makes the suit to get him, and I can't remember the other guy's name on the top of my head, but he tries to get them out, and I just love that whole sequence. It's fantastic.
Yeah. And one thing I do love about this movie as well is that quite often sometimes with superhero movies or just anything to do with like high levels of power within a character, I tend to question if that's, you know, if it can be believed. And the great thing about this movie is at every point where I was questioning whether or not this character was given too much power, it was taken away from him. For example, when he escapes that terrorist bunker, he flies away with the suit, but then it breaks.
Yeah,
so
it's like instantly.
So like he had the knowledge to get him out of there, but because his resources were so limited, of course he wouldn't be able to build a fully formed Iron Man suit in there, and so it just falls apart. And I think that's, again, that grounds the story and makes it believable in a way.
Yeah, because if it wasn't believable and they just wanted to be as like fun as possible, they would have had him just fly all the way back to like America.
The base.
But no, they make him crash almost immediately.
I think the most grounding part in the film for me is when he got out of the Humvee and gapped it, and then hid behind the rock, tried to call for backup, and then he saw his own missile land beside him, and then that's what nearly killed him. For me, I think that was definitely the most grounding part for me, because then he realized that he couldn't tolerate creating these weapons of mass destruction anymore, especially when they get in the hands of these terrorists.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, I'm just trying to think, because that section of the film, the terrorist storyline, I feel like as a character, his whole development is basically flawless. I can't really think of any flaws with that section, but I think later on in the movie, I think there are some points where I'm not sure if it's to do with the actors or the story, but there's a couple of points that I felt like they kind of missed on. And I think the one thing that I noticed the most, and this is more than just Iron Man or Downey Jr. or whatever, it's sort of a general theme that I found with this film, is there's really, really, really great focus on scenes that have to do with either movement or action or special effects. But when there's a scene that is sort of a general dialogue scene, it's a bit sloppy. And I can't think of exact examples off my head, but sometimes I feel like specifically the editing undercuts Downey Jr.'s acting. And there are some scenes where I feel like actors need pauses between their dialogue to let the impact of the scene sink in. And sometimes in this movie, when there's a sort of, some people call it a filler scene because there's not a lot going on, whereas I actually think it really, that every scene is important, the highs and the lows. And sometimes in those lower key scenes, the cutting is so fast that the message doesn't quite sink in properly. And I really think it holds back some of what Robert Downey Jr. is really great at in the sort of lower key scenes. And I think in Marvel movies that I've seen since then, they've improved massively on this and have made the movies into more of a overall sort of clockwork machine. But yeah, that's basically what I would say. Is I think in any scene that involves action or movement, Iron Man is basically, he's written brilliantly. I just wish that some of the more low-key scenes were a bit more polished.
Yeah.
But I tell you what, though, I think this movie has one of the best ending scenes of any movie I've ever seen, where he just stands on that podium and says, "I am Iron Man."
Crap, eh? Everyone else is like, "No, you can't know who I am." And he's just like, "No, mate."
And it's like it's such a great almost subversion from like anybody else, because every other like superhero film, they always are like trying to not reveal their identity, but when at the end of the film, when he's saying that he's not Iron Man, drops the card and he just says, "I am Iron Man," and that's just that's the perfect way to end the film. I think that just summarized Tony Stark in a nutshell.
Oh yeah, he's not, like the one trait that he never lacks is confidence.
No.
I think that scene really sums up who Tony Stark is, and I feel like all the things that you had going on in your mind throughout the film are all nicely wrapped up in that one scene. Really, it answers every question. Yes.
Going back to what we were talking about before about editing, I definitely agree with you there that it definitely took a lot away from the film, especially in the way they tried to build up Obadiah as the real villain of that movie. A lot of the editing they did in the later half of the film when he was back in America, like I think the first few times I watched it, I was just like, for me, it was just kind of confusing with the way they built him up. Like, it was definitely in the way they edited it.
Yeah.
Like when he was just done at the Disney concert hall, whatever it was, and Obadiah revealed to him that he was the one who locked him out and filed the injunction. I don't think for a lot of people that would have really resonated until like the very last, I guess, part of the film, where it was definitely like he was the Ironmonger. But no, I definitely agree with you there, that the editing.
Because I mean, to be fair, there was a lot to do in this film, but I do agree with you.
It had a lot on its shoulders,
in the sense that this film seemed to have a bit of a blurry villain plot, I think, and I think it's maybe because there was one or two too many. I'm not sure. No superhero film should ever have more than one villain. I think that's where a lot of films fall short. You see it in a lot of superhero films when they have two villains or more. It's just sloppy because you can't focus on Spider-Man 3.
So that is a good example.
You could have made a film with Venom, a film with Sandman, and a film with bloody Green Goblin, but you don't make all three at once. It doesn't work like that. Yeah.
But that is a perfect example of villains being a bit too much. I think I would say for me, the villains sort of just, it seems a bit sloppy because you never really know, I guess, who to focus on in terms of the villain is. Obviously, you have the terrorist for about 2/3 of the film, and then it turns to Obadiah. Even though when you can sort of hint it throughout the film that when Tony's trying to shut down all like manufacturing of weapons, and obviously Obadiah's saying, "Oh no, we shouldn't do that." Because okay, well then, he's sort of, sort of trying to
My
change
opinion,
things.
I think the terrorist villain should have been done with at the end of Act 1. I think
Yeah, I would agree that
Tony
actually.
Stark getting out of that bunker, I think, should have
Yeah.
been the end of that character. Because after that point, he just kind of fizzled off.
But I think that's where they tried to really introduce Obadiah into the villainous plot, like into the villainous light when he
Yeah.
betrayed rather. But I do agree with it that like he should have been done then and there.
It
yeah.
felt like the natural place to just end
Yeah.
that part.
When he got out
Obviously,
of the
you
cave.
have the overarching
Yeah.
story of like the weapons with Obadiah, but you didn't really need to bring that terrorist character.
I'll give another example. Return of the Jedi. That terrorist villain should have been the Jabba the Hutt, where he dies at the end of Act 1. Because he's not important to the story, really.
Not the overarching story, yeah. He's not
Not the Skywalker saga at all.
Mm.
Not at all. There was a lot in Return of the Jedi that should not have been there.
I'm sure we'll get onto that in another video at some point. There's a whole video in itself.
Like, it could have been Wookiees. It could have been Wookiees. They've been with the Ewoks.
Yeah, well, money. Right. I believe the character you forgot the name of was called Yin Sen.
Yes, that's it. Yeah.
Yes. Now he did die at the end of Act 1, actually.
Yeah, and I think that plays a lot into Tony's character. Yeah. I think
that's what
the whole experience
happened.
Exactly.
Mm.
And I think the actor does a really good performance as well.
Oh yeah, he's great.
Yeah,
he's got a real.
I swear he's in other stuff. I swear he's in other stuff as well, like other movies.
I haven't recognized anything else.
Oh, sorry, I thought you meant other Marvel movies. I was like, what? Does he come back?
He's actually.
No, you never do that either. You never do that either.
Oh.
You never bring anyone back.
Oh. I mean,
no.
I mean, I'm not sure if you're aware, Josh, but my channel is a predominantly Doctor Who channel, and that's a big pet peeve that we have.
Doctor Who's completely different. Doctor Who needs to come.
No, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about something completely separate that you probably wouldn't understand, but it's fine. Okay. You have to be within that bubble to understand some of the anger that comes from me on this channel about that.
No,
anyway,
trust him when he says that.
Yeah. Almost every video. Anyway, served its purpose and was basically essential to that terrorist storyline. That he sort of. It's interesting how he was scared for a lot of it, but also confident. It was almost like it's almost like Tony encouraged him to like he was basically like, yeah, you're gonna die, but I need your help, and this is for the greater good or something. I almost felt like that's how Tony was encouraging him through it, because I feel like Tony kind of knew this guy might not make it out. Do you reckon?
Yeah.
I think for a lot of where the real change happened was in that scene where he was dying on those seas, and then he was like, "Come on, I'm going to go see your family." He's like, "Nah, mate, they're already dead."
Yeah, exactly.
Rio's like, this whole time you weren't going to make it.
Yeah, he kind of thinks that from the start that, I'll go and see my family thing when he talks to Tony about it. He kind of knows that he wants Tony to get out, but he knows that he's probably not going to make it out.
Well, right. He wouldn't have wanted to make it out because like everything he would have loved and held dear outside those caves is gone.
Yeah.
So that's probably why he's so cool.
Maybe that's why he was so fearless, because he had nothing to lose.
Just ran out there.
He ran out with a gun. He didn't even try to shoot anybody. He was just trying to scare him off and give Tony time.
Yeah. But yeah, it definitely. I think Yin Sen was an essential part of sort of humanizing Tony Stark in this film.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, definitely.
James Rhodey Rhodes. Oh, bit of a sigh from both of you.
Yeah, it's a whole. It's more not to do with the film itself. It's more than to do with like everything outside it and going forward in the MCU.
Right.
because I think Terrence Howard, I think he does a good job with the character, and he's a likable character, and you can buy him as like Tony's mate. But obviously, everything outside of production was really the real issue. So, but I think in the film,
I don't think I'm aware of this.
I think the story is, and if Josh, you know, you can correct me. I think after this film, when they were planning to make Iron Man 2, and obviously you got to have Rhodey come back, I think Terrence Howard wanted more money, but Marvel said no, and he just sort of opted out.
Because I think he was still under contract with Paramount, and because when everything went to Disney.
Interesting. I've heard a similar story about Natalie Portman with the Thor movies.
Yeah, that's right. I heard it's because she was pregnant, but then I heard there were other reasons for her not appearing in Ragnarok.
Yeah, it's funny because it's like the Thor franchise, when she left, wasn't like, it was sort of quite divisive, and then as soon as she left, it suddenly went.
Yeah, Ragnarok was fantastic.
She probably regrets not being in Ragnarok now.
Well, she probably regrets bringing the prequel series as well.
Oh,
she probably regrets a lot of things.
She had a lot of questionable.
It's interesting though, because like you watch like Black Swan or something, she's great, but then you watch the prequels.
I haven't seen Black Swan.
I mean, Black Swan's a very weird movie, but
I heard that.
She's completely in her element. But then you watch the Star Wars prequels, and it's just like, what the hell? She's not good at all.
But that's the same with all the other actors. Let's be honest. Apart from Ewan McGregor, everyone else is sort of
the only decent actor in the trilogy.
Oh, what about Liam Neeson?
Unfortunately, he was Phantom Menace.
He was probably the best part of Phantom Menace.
Well, Darth Maul, man, come on.
Yeah, true.
Oh, that's more of a materialistic thing, though. Darth Maul. He's not really a character. He looks
cool.
He's a great plot device. How about that?
There's always two.
Yes. So anything else we want to say about Rhodey? Because I didn't really care for him, to be honest.
In this film, I would say he's a likable character, but he doesn't really have that much to do other than military man.
He had no value in this film until he becomes War Machine. That's when he becomes like of value storyline wise. But in the first film, it was just like, what are you doing here?
Yeah, I think my favorite line of him is when he looks at the silver Iron Man suit and he says, "Next time, baby." But then it's a different actor. It's so ironic. That's what the best part of it is.
Yeah, I mean, you can't really avoid it, but cast changes are one of my biggest pet peeves with any franchise. Like, fucking.
This one was a drastic one too. It went from, what's his name? I keep wanting to say Cuba Gooding Jr., but that's not him. He's quite a light-skinned man, and then you get our other Rhodesy, and it's like a complete contrast.
Yeah, that's true. Is it more of a Terrence Howard of two very different actors?
Is it more of a? Sorry. Oh, do you want to finish?
No. Keep going.
I was going to say, is it more of a contrast than Dario Naharis? Or
dude,
because that was a big change. Like,
I had no idea that was going to happen, dude. And then I saw it. I saw
him. I was like, "Who's that?
That's not Dario." And then he's got like all this like he's got the sword, and I was just like, "That is Dario."
He looks like the second one looks like a mix of like Shia LaBeouf and Jesus.
And Jesus.
He's got like the long hair and stuff.
Oh, man.
Anyway. Yeah. Oh, and even though visually it's not too different, I would say in terms of characterization, Dumbledore was a big change. Richard Harris to Michael Gambon. Just because I think Harris was kind of like very, very, very frail and had the wizardly charm, but he was so limited in terms of his action. And then like Gambon was
Yeah.
like the exact opposite. His voice was completely wrong, but he was so like emphatic and like
Yeah.
more like a movie actor, if you know what I
Yeah,
mean.
I think
Less
the
like a
biggest
character.
example of that is in Goblet of Fire,
Oh
when
yeah,
when he rushes down to Harry and he yells at him, "Harry, did you put your name in the Goblet of Fire?"
yeah. Says
Well,
I
calmly.
think that's the big.
do that. He would have walked down gingerly, and then just like loudly whispered at him.
Yeah, it's weird though because like if you watch like Chamber of Secrets and then Goblet of Fire, you're like, is this the same person?
Did they get a new headmaster or something?
Yeah, it's like in Chamber of Secrets, it's like, Harry, is this something you wish to tell me? And then Goblet of Fire is like, Harry Potter.
Oh, man.
Oh,
Oh god.
Recast.
but
is
I reckon
definitely a very...
I reckon Michael Gambon could have been in Harry Potter as a different character had Richard Harris not died, and it would have been great. But because they're the same character, it's like,
But they feel like two completely different characters.
yeah.
I reckon he would have been a good Mad-Eye.
Mad-Eye
If he
Moody?
would be a...
Yeah, but Brendan Gleeson though.
Yeah.
He's really
He
good.
was, he was fantastic.
Avada Kedavra.
Yeah, I love his eye, man. Where
Yeah,
it looks
anyway.
back.
We've gone way off topic.
Yeah.
Pepper Potts.
Gwyneth Paltrow's all right.
I
Don't
think
mind,
she.
like,
I think
don't mind
she, I think her and Tony Stark share the probably my least favorite scene in this movie, and that's when like they're going for like that awkward like kiss and then they don't.
Yeah.
It's painful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Reminds
It's,
me of my
it's-
teenage.
yeah, it's just so it sort of seems like it's. I wouldn't say it's necessarily forced, but it just seems unnecessary.
Oh, it's just so ham-fisted, I'd say.
Yeah, but they are trying to. What I think is a decent subversion is that they don't hook up at the end of this film. They kind of save it for the second one, and while that isn't great, I think at least there's that it's not trying to pay it off in this film. If you get what I mean.
Yeah.
And it's not the main vocal point of the film, so you can not necessarily forgive it, but you can tolerate it in a way, I guess. But it's not great.
Do you reckon Gwyneth Paltrow and
it's-
Robert Downey Jr. had good chemistry though?
I would say
Like-
they have decent chemistry. Yeah.
Yeah, I think in terms of just being actors on screen together, yes, but I don't think. I think the problem is more just how the direction. I'd say just again, it's going back to not just editing, but also just how the scenes with them are put together. They feel so slap bang and just not.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I would assume it's because most of the people making this movie are more expertise on superhero genre as opposed to drama, and I feel like that's the reason why it sort of feels a bit weird because if you got a more sort of dramatic director, like I don't know Richard Curtis for example, who did Love Actually, those scenes would be so much better.
That's true. I actually think he was considered before Jon Favreau.
Really?
And
Was that?
yeah, I
That
think
was-
so. And him, Quentin Tarantino. Also,
Oh yeah.
he was considered. There were a few
Yeah.
other directors that were considered.
There's a whole
before.
bunch. I think I put somewhere in the trivia section actually, so we'll get to that. I think she's a good character, but yeah, I think some of the scenes there are just could have been done better.
She does a decent performance.
Yeah, but she.
I think.
I like
I think she's a
the way
great-
she's introduced though. I like the way she's introduced
Oh,
when that
Yeah. I
That
do
girl
like that
who's-
first scene with her. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a great scene. I think.
it's like
Yeah.
hello, I'm the butler.
I also tend
It's
to take
great.
up the trash.
That was great, man.
That's such a great line.
That was great.
Yeah. I'm not familiar with the comics. Why is her name Pepper Potts?
No idea.
Oh.
I'm not that familiar either.
Okay, that's a bit weird. Right, what's next? Oh, Obadiah Stane, obviously the main villain of the story. I've kind of got mixed feelings on him.
Is it casting choice or just the character himself?
I think the actor puts in a very good performance, but he has a kind of strange he has strange charisma. I don't know how to describe it. He's kind of got like this anti attention charisma, but he's also quite a good actor. It's very weird. I don't.
Yeah, it's very hit and miss, I would say.
Yeah, he looks like a like in terms of visually, he looks like a secondary villain.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I think that's because of the whole terrorist act and how it went on longer than it should have. It kind of shadowed, and the editing also shadowed his actual premise as the main villain.
Yeah.
I think what I would say about him, I think the two main things I took away from this movie is, I think he highlights when he's being intimidating. So there's the scene where he sort of paralyzes Tony on the couch. That I think is his best scene in the movie. But then once he becomes the like villain, like the robot villain, I feel like he kind of loses a bit of that menace.
Yeah, he just it's sort of cartoonish in a way. It's basically the opposite of Iron Man, and it doesn't really work.
Yeah, and it was just a small, like a little disappointment for me, because even though I don't dislike him as the generic monster bash villain, because that can be quite fun, I just think he was so good just before that point. Like, he got to that scene where he paralyzes Tony Stark. I was like, yeah, this is it. This is who he is.
That's the moment. That's the moment he turns into a really good villain.
He felt like he felt like a genuine like Bond villain. Even I would go.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah,
I could see him in a Bond film.
Yeah, Jeff Bridges does a decent performance, but as soon as it gets to the final battle, it's just so cartoonish that it kind of takes you out of it. When he's just kind of like a decent villain, then. I
think also Bridges' personality does not match up with Ironmonger. Like, Ironmonger is just like a brute.
Yeah.
And you can see in the suit size, he just wants to go and bash the crap out of Iron Man. But like, if you watch movies like The Big Lebowski, and then you go look at Obadiah Stane, you're just like, he thrived in The Big Lebowski, because that's like more towards his personality. But then you get Obadiah Stane, not so much.
Yeah, and I don't think it's just the actor though. I think it is the fact that the writing, in terms of the tone surrounding his character, seems to shift. And as we said, it goes from being a very menacing, quite I don't know what the word is, but he goes from being so convincingly like destructive as a human to then being so comically generic as a robot.
In just like one scene.
Yeah.
And then the way he was beaten was so simple. It was just like,
it was
laughable.
Yeah. And I don't think I'd be as disappointed by that if it hadn't been for that brilliant scene beforehand.
Yeah, you would just been like, oh, that's kind of what they were going for. But then when you have that scene where he paralyzes Tony, and you're like, oh, this guy is like, he's menacing. He's like, this is a real deal.
Yeah. Do you think maybe this comes down to the fact that this movie had 4 writers?
It had 4 writers.
Yeah, it had 4 screenplay writers. Yeah.
Oh wow. That could play a part into it. Yeah. That might have been to do with it. Yeah.
I definitely think that would have definitely played a role in Stane's direction, because, like you said, he was very menacing, very villainous when he came up to paralyzing him, but then he went off a completely different direction when it came down to the final battle. So I definitely think that would have had a role in it.
Yeah. And do you think maybe this is a sort of consequence of Marvel sort of being on that line between family movie and mature movie? It's kind of like I never really know which one they're going for.
Yeah.
Well, I think this was the one that determined this was the tipping point, because Hulk was definitely a mature movie. It was not. I don't think that was a family movie at all. I'd say Iron Man was kind of between, but then Thor was definitely family friendly, and that's where they chose to go the direction of family friendly from then on out.
Yeah. Well, I would say with this one, I'm not really sure, because there are elements to this movie that feel like they belong in a mature movie, but others that don't.
Yeah, like we keep saying, the first 40 minutes is very mature. It's Tony Stark being captured by terrorists. And I would say for me that's like the best part of the film, because of that. And then for the rest of the film, it sort of goes back and forth between that, and it's sort of sloppy in that way.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I guess maybe if your target audience is like 15-year-olds, it would make sense. Because they're sort of halfway between that point. Maybe 14-year-olds, maybe 13-year-olds. Don't know. It depends on.
I think that's how old I was when it came out. How old was I? 2008.
Yeah.
I would have been. Yeah.
I would have been about 9, nearly 10, maybe. Yeah.
When I watched it, I was like, "Yo, this is sick."
Yeah. Because it's like it's mature, but it's also enjoyable for someone who's younger.
Yeah.
That definitely is.
Yeah.
It definitely.
Any other characters we want to talk about? I guess there's Jarvis.
He's not. He's kind of a character because it's Paul Bettany who eventually becomes Vision, which is well, because when I found out that Paul Bettany was Vision and then he was from the very start, I was like shocked because he doesn't really become a real character until Age of Ultron.
Yeah.
So I think it's Jarvis is a decent character, I would say, as sort of like not the conscious of Tony when he's in the Iron Man suit, but just sort of that helping hand, I guess.
It took me a while to actually realize that he was a character, because I don't know, I sort of, I don't know why, but I just sort of imagined that this was not a character. This was just like
a random AI.
A random AI, yeah. Like, it took me a while to realize that they were actually having conversations.
Yeah.
No, I definitely feel that.
I can't think of any other characters.
Hogan, I would say Happy Hogan, Jon Favreau.
Yep. I was when I found out he was a director and he played that role, I was pretty stoked by that.
Yeah, I was as well.
Cool.
Which character was Happy Hogan?
Jon Favreau.
But what character was this? I don't remember.
He was bodyguard / assistant.
Yeah.
/ liaison.
For example, when Tony's driving to the plane to meet with Rhodey, there's also the black car that follows him.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah. I know exactly.
I think it's a very minor character, but I really like Jon Favreau as Hogan, and I think he's a decent character, and I just like Jon Favreau.
He's a good actor.
Yeah.
But in relation to what we were talking about before about there being too many villains, we were very lucky to not also have the Mandarin in Iron Man 1, because apparently he was supposed to be in there in the first act with the whole terrorist plot. He was because the Ten Rings is his little terrorist organization, so he was supposed to be in there instead of Raza.
Right. Okay.
And then we went up to Obadiah Stane, but I think that also would have definitely taken off the rails completely if they had that kind of major villain.
Yeah, that's like one of the big Iron Man villains, isn't he? Obviously, from watching 3.
What do you mean?
Like, isn't he? I mean, like the Mandarin. He's like a decently big villain for Iron Man. In
the comic, he's one of the big ones.
Yeah. So I guess in a way it's good that they saved him, but obviously depending on your opinion on 3 on how they handled him.
How they turned out.
I thought of another example of a movie with too many villains.
Oh, you better not say it.
Batman and Robin.
Oh, okay. All right.
Mr. Freeze, Poison Ivy, and Bane.
Anything before The Dark Knight or Batman Begins.
What about 1989? Jack Nicholson's Joker.
If you watched that today, could you honestly enjoy it?
I have.
I can't. I just can't.
I don't think I can't remember the last time I watched it. So.
Maybe it's just because I'm captivated by Nicholson, but
that's probably it.
I definitely portrayed a great Joker, but just the it was like, for me, it wasn't a Batman film in the sense, whereas like if you compare it to like the Dark Knight series, completely different.
Oh yeah, well, I mean the Dark Knight series is on a different level. I'm not trying to compare it to the Dark Knight.
Like those are the ones I watched first, and then like watching the other ones, it's just like completely like, what's going on here? Because but no, like Jack Nicholson's Joker is definitely top tier stuff.
Yeah.
But I thought you were going to mention the Dark Knight itself.
No.
Two-Face and
No,
Joker.
no.
I think that's the only superhero
I-
film that had two villains that I could.
I know why you're saying that. I think that film really is one of the examples where they managed to pull it off, and it's because I think it's because they balance the screen time so well that when Two-Face comes into the plot, it's almost like so there's actually something else going on here, you know?
Yeah, it feels right. Like,
and it's very underplayed as well.
Yeah, like if you didn't read the comics, you would have had no idea. And when he does come in, you got to worry about him now too. I think it was definitely really, really well written. But
yeah, I would agree.
There's a bit of interesting Doctor Who trivia to do with the Dark Knight, but you probably won't know it, Josh. Do you know what I'm talking about, Kellen?
I may know, but I can't remember on the top of my head.
It's Eric Roberts' Master. Isn't that movie?
Oh, is he?
Yeah.
Oh, yes, he is. Yeah, now I remember. Yeah. I remember the scene now, or the scenes. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Sorry, what were you saying, Josh?
What character does he play?
Eric Roberts.
Yeah.
Oh, you're talking about in the Dark Knight or in Doctor Who?
Yeah, in the Dark Knight. I remember him in Doctor Who.
Oh, he's I haven't seen it in a while, but I remember he's in that court scene at the very beginning of the movie.
He's also in the car scene with Two-Face.
No, he was a little snivelly guy that was going to rat out on Bruce Wayne, wasn't he? He was the guy that found out all the weaponry plans that Batman uses, and he kind of weighed it all up and was like, Bruce Wayne's Batman. He was going to like knock on him, but then the Joker was like, kill him.
Oh. Is this accurate, Callum?
I'm looking for Eric Roberts.
It might be him.
He plays Maroni. That's what it says on IMDb.
Maroni.
Yeah, that's what it says he plays as. But he is in DC's Dark Knight.
Yeah,
but
I was
how important to the plot he is.
Because I think I rewatched the first 10 minutes of that film recently, and I was like, "What the hell? It's Eric Roberts."
The first time I saw Eric Roberts was in the TV show Heroes, the first season.
Yeah.
That's where I recognized him from. And then when I realized he was in the Doctor Who movie, I was like, "Whoa, he plays the Master! What the hell?"
Yeah. I reckon Eric Roberts' Master would have fit in with that is it Joel Schumacher's Batman movies? Like he would have fit in with that vibe, I reckon.
Maybe, yeah.
Like he was just so camp.
And I enjoy camp, but I think...
Oh, yeah. It has its place, I think.
Yeah, it does. And I think the best example of that is the Spider-Man films. They're very campy, but that's what makes it great.
The Green Goblin. One of my favorites. Willem Dafoe.
Oh, Willem Dafoe's great.
I love that scene where he's looking in the mirror. He's the best. Those movies are such memes, though.
Oh yeah, that's so memeable. But
J. Jonah Jameson's just the best.
That's ever. Also another comic book character, perfectly cast.
You're fired.
I remember when they cast him in the DCEU as what's his name? As Gordon.
Commissioner Gordon.
Yeah, I was like, what? You're J. Jonah Jameson.
You're J. Jonah, man.
He's been typecast at this point.
I recently watched a video where he does the JJ voice.
Yeah,
I think in a comic book.
Yeah.
I remember seeing that not that long ago, and I'm like, just bring him back to the MCU, man. Just
he's amazing.
Coming home far from home, please.
They better.
I mean, I think that guy won Best Actor at the Oscars or something a few years ago. Something.
Oh, for No, I know. I think I know what you're talking about.
It was when he was bald. It was when he was bald.
Whiplash? Is that what it's called?
Yeah, Whiplash. That's that jazz movie with that real.
So he's done really well.
Yeah, he's a great actor.
He's fantastic. his charisma is off the charts.
He's the best part of Spider-Man 3, I would say.
He's arguably the best part of all three.
Yeah, and that's not saying much though, but he is fantastic.
Yeah. Right. Back to Iron Man. We've basically gone over most of the plot already. Is there anything else about the plot you want to say?
No, I think we have basically covered the plot. We mostly talked about the terrorist beginning scene, which is fantastic opener to the film. And I think the rest of the film, while it can be entertaining and funny at times, it just seems just a tad bit sloppy, and it could have been cleaned up a bit better. Yeah. But I think you can sort of forget that because this is the first MCU film. I think they had plans for it, but if this bombed, then obviously there'd be no MCU. So in terms of the story being a bit sloppy, I think you can sort of just forgive it because it's the first attempt at it.
Yeah. I think the one thing that I would say about it is it does feel a bit episodic sometimes.
Yeah.
It's not too bad. Like it's much worse, and I'm sure we'll get to that. It's with some of the others, because from what I've heard, there are other MCU movies that are far more sloppy.
I agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah. Thankfully, I haven't seen much of them yet.
There's a few I haven't seen, but I've seen most of them.
Half the X-Men movies.
I haven't watched an X-Men film apart from.
But they are still Marvel movies, and those are just horrendous.
Yeah, I think 1 and 2 are fine, but then 3 and especially some of the spin-off ones are just awful. Like,
that's what I've heard. Yeah.
I can't stand. The only ones I enjoyed were Logan and Days of Future Past.
Logan's the only one I've actually.
What about the first two?
No,
the first two. No, not anymore.
It was like classic early 2000s movie.
Right. Yeah. I get you, mean. Like Mean Girls, you know.
And it's just like classic, and you just want to forget really. That kind of you just want to forget it. The early
Dark
2000s
Phoenix is going to be the last one, isn't it? Of that sort of line of films.
Series, yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
I've heard some people say they think Days of Future Past is a bit wank though, because it's got too much time travel.
I really liked it.
I haven't seen it, so
because
I've heard it's divisive.
Yeah, but I think the best part for me was the fact that it reset the whole X-Men universe, but then they just threw it out the window with Apocalypse, and I was just like, "What happened here?"
Oh,
you guys had, a golden.
That sounds very familiar, doesn't it, Kellen? Let's reset something and make it better again, and then throw it away next time.
Yeah, let's do that. That'd be great. I would be annoyed with that.
Yeah, no, that wouldn't happen, would it? Screenplay. So, Mark Fergus, Hawk Otsby, Art Markham, and Matt Holloway. So 4 people wrote this movie.
How could you do that? Do they all sit around a table?
I mean,
right
as I said about episodic, that to me sounds more like a writer's room that you would have on TV as opposed to a movie.
Yeah. Like the way it seems like they just they could have had one screenplay writer do one bit of the film, another do another bit, and the other do the other bits as well. That's kind of what it feels like, really.
Yeah. Now that I think about it, it feels like one person wrote the opening bit, then the 2 halves in the middle, and then the final scene.
Yeah, I feel like it might be. I'm because I wouldn't know who was who, but it's like, there's probably one genius that wrote that terrorist story, and then there's one pretty good person that wrote the Act 2 villain plot. Then there's one pretty terrible person that wrote all the filler, and then there's one person that loves childish comic books, and they're like, yeah, let's have robots merged together.
Let's have Iron Man versus Iron Man.
Yeah, I definitely think that my theory would be that the large amount of writers on this movie is part of the reason why it feels so mixed in tone.
Yeah. I think for 4 writers, I think it could have been so much worse, but it also could have just been a lot more cleaner.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I wonder if there was like a hierarchy within them, though.
Yeah, no,
Maybe.
no, definitely. Because I think the higher ups in the Marvel Studios definitely wanted this to work because they would have planned this out ages ago and interconnecting all these films. So this film had a lot of pressure on its shoulders.
Mm.
This and Incredible Hulk, but thankfully Iron Man did well.
Yeah.
Because Hulk was trash.
Yeah.
But
Well, I haven't seen it, so I'm gonna get to it next time.
Yes. So I haven't actually watched it either, but I've watched.
I'm
a lot.
probably gonna have to watch it after we finish tonight, to be honest.
Yeah.
Because
it's like
I've got
it's all right, but the casting choice was horrible. I'm glad Mark Ruffalo is now the Hulk.
Mark Ruffalo is great as the Hulk.
He is great.
What do you? This is a bit of a weird question. What do you think of Ang Lee's Hulk movie from like 2002?
Oh, I haven't
With,
even seen
It's
it.
weird.
Who was the Hulk?
It was
Eric
Eric Bana.
Eric Bana.
It was weird.
It was too green. It was too green.
Yeah.
It was
It
too.
just looks so fake.
You know what Eric Bana as a kid, like he reminds me of, like, he kind of looks a little bit like Adam Levine from Maroon 5, but he's also he's not like that at all, because he's like, his personality is so bland that it's almost like this guy is just the most generic Bruce Banner you could possibly have, 6 foot tall, brown hair, really, confident, and doesn't really have anything else to add apart from, like, the only interesting thing about him was the story written around him, not his actual personality.
He seems like the kind of like middle class dad living in a town in the middle of nowhere, just working day by day. Like, that's what he reminds me of. He's like an average guy.
Yeah, but I did kind of like how it didn't portray the movie as like superheroes are super. It was like, this accident happened and this guy turned into the Hulk, and now everyone's fucked. It's kind of miserable.
That is true.
Yeah. But that movie would not fit in with like an MCU at all.
Not now, no. Or ever.
God, if they tried to do the MCU like in the early 2000s, it would have just been so cringeworthy.
It would have been like Matrix 3, but like 20 movies worth.
Imagine if the MCU, you had all the movies that we have now, except they're in like the same tone as the Star Wars prequels.
I kind of don't want to imagine that. Because I would get angry.
Oh.
Oh, God.
Well, I mean, it would still have Natalie Portman in it.
It would just be the same dialogue between Chris Hemsworth and Natalie Portman.
God, imagine Hayden Christensen as Thor, trying to be funny.
We still have his little braid.
Another.
And not just the men, but the women and the children too.
I think if Hayden Christensen was cast as Thor in that scene where he smashes the mug down, it wouldn't have smashed. It would have bounced off the ground. He'd been like, oh.
Oh dear.
Oh,
I hate how in the special edition of Return of the Jedi they pasted his creepy face onto Vader.
They used his stock footage.
And it's the same. It's not even a new shot. It's just him when he's looking at Padme on the balcony in Revenge of the Sith, just put on his ghost.
Is it the exact? Is that from that scene?
It's that scene, and he's just like,
oh God.
Oh.
I don't even hate Hayden Christensen, but just why?
The prequel series would have been so much better.
If it was done now.
No, don't say that, because the sequel trilogy is trash.
Oh, that's true. Yeah,
it would have been the same now.
That's true. There's different problems though. Like,
that's true.
The prequel trilogy is like really, really crap and cringeworthy and meme-worthy, but the sequel trilogy is like crafted pretty well. But the choices made were quite diabolical. Like, I would say that there's quite a difference there.
I actually do like the sequel films, but I do agree there's a lot of problems in terms of choices.
Like in terms of how the movies are actually made in the sequel films, they're actually really, really good.
No,
but
Yeah,
What
they
Like
makes
they
them
look fantastic. But...
what makes them divisive is the choices made with the story, as opposed to the prequels where it's like literally everyone agrees, yes, the acting shit, the dialogue shit, the CGI is really dated. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or even like Phantom Menace, The Belle of Naboo.
Oh my, 100. It's like 100% CGI, right? It
Mm.
looks like
Green
the
screen everywhere.
grass. It looks like, you know, the classic Windows XP background, like the
Yeah.
grassy hill. It looks like that.
Yep.
Oh, I wonder if George Lucas like actually did that. Just like as like I wonder if anyone will notice and just like copy and paste it. It's like, nah, we'll be fine. No one
Yeah.
knows.
And it was weird because like when they were walking through the like steamy swamp, it looked quite atmospheric. But then when you get to the grass, it's just like, well, this is just like it's like a crayon drawing.
Oh, I don't know what went through his head. But to be fair, it was a bunch of new technology at the time, and I think for them it was like it was
Blue
too
screen
new.
here, blue screen here, blue screen here.
There's so many toys. Let's use them all.
Jar Jar is the key to this.
Oh, never mention Jar Jar.
Fucking 90s kids trigger. Anyway, so the direction of Iron Man by Jon Favreau. Did I say his name right?
Yes, I think that's how you say his name.
Yeah,
Jon
Favreau. It's kind of French.
Yeah.
I think I may have mentioned this already, but I think the direction in this film is great when it's an action scene, or it's a moving scene, or it's a special effects scene. But I think there are too many wide two shots when there's dialogue. I think some of the direction looks a bit stale. And there could have been more done to emphasize people's like actors like emotions in certain dialogue scenes. There's a lot of scenes where it's like you got two people just walking straight on, and it feels kind of like it just feels like you could have done more with it. But then you get to scenes like when he's building the suit, and it's amazing. It looks so awesome, like how every detail of the suit's being put together. I just wish that the rest of the film was that level of detail, you know?
He can do great action set pieces in terms of direction, but everything else seems just so stale.
Yeah. And I think he actually improves in the lighter scenes in later movies, because I believe he does all the Iron Mans and all the Avengers, right?
I think he did Iron Man 2.
Jon Favreau's done Iron Man 1 and 2, and someone else did 3. Yeah, Josh Whedon wrote and directed the 2 Avengers films, the first 2.
Then,
maybe I'm mistaken.
I think he had a heavy hand in Homecoming.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, I would say
because he had quite a role in that.
I would say Homecoming has really good dialogue direction.
It does.
Michael,
the dialogue between Michael Keaton and our little boyfriend. What's his name? Oh, it always happens.
Anyway, but yeah, no, I think in Iron Man it's just not dynamic enough. The dialogue, the direction and the dialogue scenes are just so observational, I think is the word I would use.
Yeah. They're very stationary.
Yeah. Doesn't feel like a superhero movie, doesn't feel like a drama, feels like it just feels very 2008 generic shots, you know?
Yeah.
Point and shoot.
Just very simple. Yeah, just camera on actors act out their scene in dialogue.
Yeah. And it's interesting because like even in TV, not just cinema, but TV at the time, saw more dynamic dialogue direction than this movie had. And it's just strange because it's like Jon Favreau is so good with the action scenes.
He is. They're fantastic set pieces.
Yeah.
No, definitely.
Yeah. Like I think the choice to have a camera inside of the suit, seeing its face, was really cool.
Yeah, it's a fantastic idea.
It's iconic imagery.
Yeah, it's like it's just so now it's just so we're so used to it, but like when you first see it, it's just such a cool just shot of everything around Tony's face. and just all the little images around him. It's just such a cool shot, like in terms of visually.
Yeah.
No, it definitely is.
Yeah. And it seems like when he's trying out the technology and he like smashes into the wall and sometimes he falls through the floor. Like that stuff's really good too.
Yeah.
That's not really an action scene. It's just it has movement and it has special effects in it. So they put more effort into it, I think.
Yeah.
But it's just the other stuff, like when they're just walking and talking. That's where it tends to lose me a bit. I guess it may be just because they wanted to focus on the fundamentals more than the overall clockwork of the movie.
Yeah.
Because a massive bulk of Iron Man's, I guess, imagery is surrounded in the action scenes. Because I mean, that's when he comes out to play. But then, because I mean, I feel like if you got any other actor to portray Iron Man, you'd have a lot less dialogue, a lot more action. Because you got Robert Downey Jr., you have a lot more dialogue. And I think in the later Iron Man films, there's actually less action.
There's a lot less action in like 3, for example.
Interesting. I'll be interested to see what the direction's like in that one, because if it's got less action, then how do they cope with the dialogue scenes if it's the same director, I assume?
No, 3 didn't have Favreau.
It was Shane Black did 3, if I'm not mistaken. Let me just Google it just to be sure, because I don't want to be wrong.
But I mean, Favreau did Iron Man 2, right?
Yes.
Yep.
And Iron Man 2 has less action, does it, than 1? Would you say? Or about the same?
There's like,
I guess it's like about the same.
There's like 3 key scenes I can remember, but I would say the quality of the action scenes in 2 is better. But I think I would say that there might be less.
Okay. Well, that'll be interesting.
Yeah, Shane Black does do Iron Man 3.
Okay. Right. Anything else you want to say about the direction before we move on?
I think we've said everything.
Rightio. Music. Ramin Djawadi, who also did Game of Thrones and Westworld and other stuff I'm probably not aware of.
Well, when you say Iron Man and music, I think of Black Sabbath or AC/DC, or that kind of stuff. I never really paid attention to anything else.
I think there's the score itself. I think the main theme you can sort of remember, but then everything else is sort of either just soundtracks of popular songs and stuff. But I think the score, the main theme is memorable, but everything else is quite stationary.
I think I would say in terms of the score, it's very incidental. Doesn't steal the show, apart from obviously the pop tracks like AC/DC, Black Sabbath, all that stuff. But I don't know. When I saw his name on this movie, I was kind of hyped, and then he didn't really do a lot in terms of score, and I didn't expect that, because from what I've experienced of him before, especially with Game of Thrones, Ramin Djawadi is incredible at crafting score. And I don't know. It just felt like he didn't make an impact, or at least not as much as I would have hoped that he would.
Yeah,
I think it's to incorporate really decent scores with movies that have, or series that have, a lot more drama in it, because then it gives like the music a chance to be heard. Whereas as opposed to action movies like Iron Man, you're not really focusing on the music and the scene. You're focusing just purely on the action, and purely just on the character.
Yeah, because Iron Man's not a film that people would first think of when you say film score.
No,
really,
no,
no, not at all.
No. So I don't know. I wouldn't say I was disappointed, but I just didn't notice him as much as I expected to.
Yeah,
I never knew that, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean he obviously very functional and it works, but didn't steal the show, unfortunately.
But I think in a way that's a good thing, because with this film, you really want Robert Downey Jr. to steal the show very specifically, considering what character he's playing.
Yeah.
So I think,
but the thing is with that though is that if you're trying to have him be the focus point, you'd expect him to have like a very memorable, like sort of a theme, or like a like when sometimes in other movies and series, when a character enters a room or has a certain emotion, a certain theme will play and it sticks with you.
Yeah, that's true.
Whereas I don't remember that in this film. I don't remember Tony Stark having a specific theme.
Well, there was no distinctive Iron Man theme itself, because they were going to use there was a lot of discrimination about what song to use, because they weren't actually going to use any score for that. They were going to use Black Sabbath Iron Man, but things fell through that, so they used AC/DC, but they couldn't decide what song to use for that.
I don't necessarily mean the theme of the movie. I mean as in like literally
No. Yeah. No, I know what you mean, but like if you look at the Avengers, when Iron Man pops up, they're playing AC/DC Shoot to Thrill, whereas in the first one, there's like a couple of...
Yeah.
So, but I mean, I don't think it would have suited the character either, really. If you saw Iron Man pop up with a score as opposed to like a hard rock song, what would you prefer?
I guess that does make sense. Actually, his character does suit production music, really, because that's who he is.
I would agree with that.
He's kind of like one of those guys that makes an entrance, like a proper.
Yeah.
He wants to be the biggest.
And want people to know he's arrived.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Interesting. I'm not sure if Ramin Djawadi does any of the other Marvel movies, but I would hope that he does, because I want him to give me something, because I know how great he can be.
Well, I mean, what other films do you think he could really excel in?
What about
MCU?
What about something like Doctor Strange?
Oh yeah, I could definitely see that. I could definitely see him in Infinity War as well.
Yep.
That would have been great. But I think because now he's so busy with Game of Thrones, or he would have been so busy with Game of Thrones.
And Westworld as well.
And Westworld, yeah.
Westworld was great.
Yeah. I mean, then again, like I say, his specialities tend to be the sort of more fantastical, atmospheric sounds, as opposed to modern superhero movies, even though he is quite good at score. I guess he strives more when it comes to the stranger, more sort of out there styles, especially like timeless, orchestral stuff.
Yeah.
Well,
what are the major pieces he did for never mind. Flyby. Oh, that's my friend I thought. Sorry.
Okay. Right. So now we're going to move on to the trivia section. There was a lot of this, and I had to skip over some of it because I don't want to be sitting here for hours on end. But I did try and scramble as much like key stuff as I could out of the trivia. So the script for Iron Man was not completely finished when filming began, since the filmmakers were more focused on the story and the action. So the dialogue was mostly ad-libbed throughout filming. Director Jon Favreau acknowledged this made the film feel more natural. Some scenes were shot with 2 cameras to capture lines improvised on the spot. Robert Downey Jr. would ask for many takes for one scene since he was trying something new. Gwyneth Paltrow, on the other hand, had a difficult time trying to match Downey with a suitable line, as she never knew what he would say. So I guess maybe that contributes to why some of the dialogue scenes seem a bit strange compared to the rest of the movie, because it was ad-libbed.
Yeah, I think that definitely, when you see that trivia, that definitely, now looking back on it, that very much comes across, I think. But that sort of, in a way, doesn't surprise me in terms of Robert Downey Jr. I kind of sort of would assume some
I
of
mean,
his stuff would be more ad-libbed.
Yeah, I mean he's a natural at just coming up with things to say and do. Director John Favreau.
Oh no, sorry.
Director John Favreau wanted Robert Downey Jr. because he felt the actor's past was right for the part. I think you've already said this before, Josh.
Yeah.
He commented, "The best and worst moments of Robert's life have been in the public eye. He had to find an inner balance to overcome obstacles that went far beyond his career. That's Tony Stark. Robert brings a depth that goes beyond a comic book character having trouble in high school or can't get the girl." Favreau also felt Downey could make Stark a likable asshole, but also depict an authentic emotional journey once he won over the audience. Yep. Sounds about right.
Yeah, we've discussed that, and that's very apparent, I would say.
That's how we started out, really.
This one I really loved when I read this. To avoid spoilers about the final press conference, the extras were told that it was a dream sequence.
Hey,
that's one way to keep spoilers from leaking.
That's very funny.
I wonder what they would do for Endgame though, where they're just like the entire movie's a dream sequence, so nothing's spoiled.
It's just Tony's dream.
Just wakes up with a sheriff.
He had a really long night, and
no.
So many people would be pissed if it's a dream.
I'm surprised they back in 2008 about a spoiler like that, because I mean it wouldn't have been that detrimental to the overall storyline. But no, it's cool.
Yeah, but I feel like the perspective of a spoiler has changed a lot since then.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Because there's a big difference between, because like back then it was like, oh, we don't want people to know that Iron Man is going to be a superhero that tells everyone he's Iron Man, as opposed to now it's like, we don't want people to know that half the cast are going to die because Thanos clicks his fingers.
Those are very two different things.
Yeah. Tony Stark's computer system is called Jarvis, just a rather very intelligent system. This is a tribute to Edwin Jarvis, Howard Stark's butler. He was changed to an artificial intelligence to avoid comparisons to Bruce Wayne's butler, Alfred Pennyworth.
Right. You could sort of see that, yeah. If he had a butler.
After his dad's butler?
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, though, could this movie do with a bit more Michael Caine?
Dude, no, Michael
every
Caine
film could do a bit more.
It's just he solely belongs to the Dark Knight.
Dark Knight, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It'd be weird seeing him anywhere else. I feel weird when I see Jeremy Irons being Alfred. I'm just like, I feel like I need a shower afterwards. It's not right.
Yeah, I mean, I heard some people say the same thing about seeing Emilia Clarke in Star Wars. Like, that's just a weird one.
I didn't like that one either. I mean, how'd you feel about Solo anyway?
Oh, I haven't seen it.
I haven't seen it either.
I've heard it's like, not worth it.
Yeah, I hear like it's mainly divisive.
I think someone said. I think someone said to me like, it's probably the most forgettable Star Wars film ever.
No, it definitely is.
I'd say that's the thing to have with a Star Wars film, especially if it's just forgettable.
Yeah, that's like the opposite of what Star Wars is supposed to be. It's supposed to be like the most memorable movies ever.
Yeah, you can say what you want about like the prequels or the sequels, but they're memorable.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I'll never forget Attack of the Clones.
For better or for worse.
The whole thing. It's in my brain.
Revenge of the Sith, man. That's like seared into my memory. As a child, watching all the Jedi just being murdered, I was like, this can't happen.
That one surprised me because it's like George Lucas was so over the top with the first two, and then there's a couple of scenes in Revenge of the Sith that are actually really, really subtle. Yeah. Like, the scene where he's looking outside the Jedi Temple and Padme's looking outside her window as well. It's like, where did that come from? Where was that? Where was that in the Phantom Menace?
There's a lot of good stuff in Revenge of the Sith, honestly.
Yeah,
but there's a lot of shit in it as well.
Yeah, that is true. But I do hold Revenge of the Sith in quite a high regard, even though I dislike the prequel series.
I would say it's the best of the three, for sure.
Oh, definitely. It's the best of the prequel. Because like Jar Jar plays like a very minimal role in it.
He's in one scene.
One shot. Here's one shot.
really sad.
That, to be fair, also he was the one that gave Palpatine emergency powers. So you want someone to blame for the Empire? You
I
gotta blame
think,
Jar Jar.
I think what I would say about Revenge of the Sith, I think it's a lovable mess. That's
Yeah,
how I describe it. It's like there are so many things that are wrong about it, but you push through because the highlights are so worth it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
The best parts of the film are worth the trash surrounding it.
Yeah. Although oh god, some of the dialogue, like, just like, honestly, does George Lucas not have any subtlety at all?
Like between Palpatine and Yoda, or Yoda and anyone.
God.
It's just come on, mate.
And it's crazy because, like, before he turned into, crazy Sith Lord, he was McDermott was so subtle. He was so brilliant. And then as soon as he turns into Sidious, it's just like, well,
yeah,
he's
evil. Scene is big.
He's like, you guys know now, so here we go.
He's just walking devil. That's all he is.
Well,
I think that has a sense of entertainment about it. You can get entertained by it.
Oh yeah, I know. But it's like
way over time.
But like, basically, to put it in perspective, like comparing Palpatine before Lightning and after Lightning is like comparing like Roger Delgado to Eric Roberts as the Master. You know what I mean?
Pretty much, yeah.
They're both enjoyable, but one is very much better than the other.
Is it because of the hamburger scene?
Oh no, you're thinking of John Sim.
Oh, am I? How many Masters have there been?
There's been a few.
7 or 8. It depends if you count the bald guy from Big Finish. But there's been 7. There's been 7 on TV, I think.
Yeah.
Delgado, Peter Pratt, and then Jeffrey Beavers and Peter Pratt were the same character. And then there was Anthony Ainley, and then Eric Roberts, and then Derek Jacobi, John Sim, Michelle Gomez.
Mm-hmm. There's been a lot.
Yeah. Anyway, Iron Man.
Yeah.
Was Marvel Studios' first self-financed movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
200. It was $200 million, eh?
Yeah. It technically speaking was an independent film.
Yeah.
I do remember Jeff Bridges saying, in regards to there being no set script or like solid script, he just said it was basically a $200 million student film.
Yeah.
He said he hated the whole ride. Like, he loved being in it, but because of the script, it was just like it was over it.
Yeah, but it's such a beloved movie, so it's interesting how he says that. It's like sometimes less is more. Like,
yeah, definitely.
Like the first Rocky movie was an independent film.
That's true. That's so great. And look at where we are now.
Yeah,
living at Endgame.
Yeah, which is like Infinity War was one of the biggest movies ever. And
yeah,
definitely. It's the biggest build-up of all time.
Yeah, it's insane. It's like they've literally hit the same levels as any other movie franchise ever at this point.
I think, well, I, in all honesty, I said they'd probably be somewhere close to the pinnacle, if not at the pinnacle at the moment.
I don't think any. I feel like original trilogy Star Wars is kind of the pinnacle. Those movies are so famous. Like, when they came out, they were the best movies ever. People said,
yeah,
because it's like not only were they so well crafted, but they were also so popular with the mainstream as well. Like, for example, The Godfather is a really well crafted movie, but you can't show your family that.
No, it's like they're all like 3 hours long, aren't they, or something like that?
Yeah,
pretty much.
You can't just sit down one afternoon and just watch it.
Yeah, it's like a mafia movie the length of Lord of the Rings.
You need to gear up for that. Oh, Lord of the Rings as well. You need to like gear up for it. You need to like
you need to prep yourself.
Extended editions are your pussy. We need to see those extra scenes that mean nothing to the story. Again, more of like bitten fingernails and.
Imagine having to edit the Lord of the Rings movies. What a tedious process that would have been.
Anyway, Roughly 450 separate pieces make up the Iron Man suit.
450 pieces.
450 pieces make up the suit.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
How long would it have taken them to put it on him?
I'm not sure.
How many?
This is
how many,
like the only film that he actually wears the suit, isn't it?
Yeah.
I
Well,
believe.
because the more 2 and 3 is when they get a lot more advanced. So
Yeah.
because the one in this film in Iron Man 1 is quite bulky. It's probably the only one he could wear. Because then he gets Infinity, and it's just like a skin suit.
I mean, maybe that's why they did so many close-ups on it being built together, because there's so many pieces, and they're like, we need to show all these.
Yeah, we need to show the effort that we put into this.
Yeah. The roadster in which Tony Stark was working on is owned by director Jon Favreau.
Is it?
Wow.
Hey. All right. How do you feel that?
I mean, that is a student film, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we'll just do it on my dad's car. It'll be fine.
Yeah, it's fine.
400 extras were meant to be filmed standing at Tony Stark's press conference, but Robert Downey Jr. suggested they ought to sit down, as that would be more realistic and comfortable. What a lad!
Making sure everyone's nice and comfortable.
I was so taken aback at that scene when he told them to sit down. I was like, I've never seen this in a movie before.
Yeah, when he's eating the hamburger.
Yeah, I've never seen this before.
Yeah,
it's like, what is this?
Like, considering the circumstances, I mean, why would you not? Like, if I went to a press conference, I'd just be like, no, just sit down.
Let's just relax, guys.
Just sit down. Who wants hamburgers?
Imagine if in The Dark Knight, like Harvey Dent's just like, oh, we just want you to sit down.
Now that would have taken in that kind of scenario, Harvey Dent's character wouldn't match up at all. But then like Tony Stark, it makes perfect sense.
Well, what if Harvey Dent says, I'll flip a coin and we'll find out if we're standing or sitting?
I feel like that would have got cut from the final.
Yeah.
When Pepper discovers Tony removing the damaged Iron Man armor, Captain America's shield can be seen sitting on a workbench.
Yeah.
That's a prototype one, eh? Is it a solid piece? Because I think every time I've seen it, I've always missed it. I'm like, oh wait, was that the scene with the shield? Because I don't think it's just sitting there blatantly clear as day. The shield, I think it's like kind of under stuff, or it's kind of like divvied up or something.
You know what my favorite Easter egg is in a movie? What? Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets and the Dueling Club, when you can see the cameraman.
Oi!
Can you actually?
When Malfoy's on the ground and Snape picks him up, you can see the cameraman. It's so weird.
Oh god, I never noticed that.
Yeah.
I've recently rewatched all the films, so.
The thing is, like, Chamber of Secrets is like nearly 3 hours long, so they probably were just like, "Fuck, we can't pay attention to all the continuity," because it's literally just like, let's put the book on screen.
Well, I mean, they did a pretty good job with it. It was a pretty good one.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's funny because we've had this conversation before. Most people I found say it's the worst one, whereas I think it's the best one.
Chamber of Secrets.
Chambers.
Yeah, a lot of people say it's...
I've always heard that they think that Goblet's the worst one.
Oh, that's more the book readers. Because Goblet of Fire doesn't use the book as much, and it's also a very teenagers. You know what I mean? And
very coming of age.
See, the Goblet of Fire used to be my favorite, but then I was like, when I rewatched it, I was like, they skipped the Quidditch World Cup. Like, what the hell?
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah.
When I learned that there's a whole thing in the book about it, I'm just like, oh.
Why would you not like? Quidditch was like, if you were a kid watching the movies, that was like probably your favorite part of the movie was the Quidditch scene, and then just cutting them out completely. I was just like, what is this?
Yeah, and it's like it would have like given us more investment in Victor Crumb had we seen him play Quidditch, you know? Because he gets no dialogue. Like
no. He's like,
does he actually have a line in the film?
Do you want to go? Oh, he does. No, he does. He says, this tent is for champions and friends.
Oh, yeah. At the end of he gives Hermione his, like, address. He's like, write to me, promise? God. And then it's like, slinks away.
He actually comes back in the books, but not in the movies.
Oh, does it actually?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he's at Fleur and Bill's wedding in the books,
Oh, right.
and he's like, "Oh, here," and then like it's like an awkward conversation with Hermione because it's like we used to be,
You had a fling once upon a time.
yeah, bloody Durmstrangs. During the final battle, there was originally going to be a sequence where Tony in the Iron Man suit drives an Audi R8 that would crash into Ironmonger's legs, then flip over. After which Iron Man would split the car in half and jump out. However, the Audi R8 was so well built that it refused to flip, despite repeated crashes, and the roof wouldn't split the way director John Favreau wanted it to. Because the car's frame was so tough, as a result, the whole final fight sequence was rewritten.
No way.
That
Why
would
would you make a what? That's probably why for the rest of the.
It's the German engineering, man. The Audi's just too tough.
It's the Germans.
It's like
that would have been a really cool set piece.
That would have been cool.
Yeah. Why didn't they just
it's like a cool scene.
I mean, maybe they just got too far into production to change the car, didn't they?
Yeah,
what I mean,
probably.
why? Because in the rest of the MCU movies, they have prop cars. Like all of the rest of Tony Stark's cars aren't real cars. They just make them in the studio. So why didn't they just do the same thing with making Audi?
You did mention that this is a student film, so
They probably didn't have the budget
Audi
to
was
do
like
Dude,
maybe Audi
they
paid
got
them to have their car in the film.
Yeah, probably.
surely.
Because in like 2008, the Audi R8 was like the best car. Heard a lot of people talking about it back then. So maybe they were using the movie as product placement for their car.
True. Well, because they used Homecoming and scenes around that for the Audi, didn't they?
Yeah, I think it was
Yeah,
Flash
it
Cars,
was.
wasn't it? Something like that.
When he was taking his driving license test
Yeah.
or something.
Oh yeah, that was like I remember that. That was an advert, and I remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, now that this is a big one. It took approximately 17 years to get the film into development.
Yeah.
Originally, Universal Pictures was going to do it in 1990. No idea. Imagine this film in 1990.
Jesus.
They later sold the rights to 20th Century Fox. Later, Fox sold the rights to New Line Cinema, and then finally, Marvel Studios decided to handle it on their own. According to John,
money for it. To be honest.
According to John Favreau, when making this film, there was a lot of pressure for it to succeed. This was particularly due to Marvel using their characters as collateral when they received a $525 million deal called a non-recourse debt facility, allowing them to make the original films based on their properties. Marvel wanted to have complete creative control over their characters, build a film library, and greater profit potential than the deals they've inked with other studios owned the film rights to their characters. Marvel also changed its name to Marvel Entertainment Incorporated to establish a Hollywood presence. If the film didn't succeed, Marvel would have lost intellectual property rights to their library. However, the wager paid off, and as Iron Man's box office success enabled Marvel to kick off the MCU, consisting of internet connecting films and a series.
Yeah, well, there was a lot of pressure on this film.
Yeah. Definitely had a lot on his shoulders.
Apparently, Hugh Jackman was offered the role of Tony Stark.
Yep. So
was he actually?
That would have been awkward if he was also Wolverine.
That would have been really weird.
Like, imagine like an Iron Man Wolverine meetup with both Hugh Jackman.
Like an adamantium suit with claws.
No, I mean like literally the characters meet each other and they're both Hugh Jackman.
Yeah. God, that would be so weird. I'm glad they went with Downey Jr.
Well, didn't they go through a couple of actors before getting to Robert Downey Jr.?
Yeah,
so
they did,
Tom Cruise turned it down, and then the guy that played Justin Hammer in the second one also got offered it, but then got looked past. Because Favreau was like, "Nah, I want Robert Downey Jr."
You know who was the choice before Eric Roberts for the Master?
Who?
Jim Carrey.
Yes, I've heard this. Yes, it was Jim Carrey was one of the choices. Oh, God.
If only they reconsidered that for the Riddler. Oh, man. Those movies were.
Oh, yeah. Oh, Jesus.
Schwarzenegger's Mr. Freeze.
Just the jokes. The jokes.
Time to chill out.
Oh dear.
Oh.
The one scene I remember from Batman and Robin is where Robin takes the lip thing off. And he's Poison Ivy, you didn't poison me at all.
Yeah. I remember the Batman credit card.
Oh.
Never leaves the cave without it.
Even George Clooney has said, "I'm so sorry."
Yeah, he said multiple times that he thought he killed the Batman series for films.
Well, he did for 7 years.
Yeah, he did for
took Christopher Nolan to bring it back.
Mm-hmm. Thank God.
Even then, Batman Begins needed the Dark Knight is really what pushed that whole series and brought Batman back into legitimacy. Because Batman Begins was kind of like
it's enjoyable if you would like Batman, but it's a bit it's not one that you'd put on for someone who doesn't know about Batman, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Mm.
No, I don't understand that.
It's
Also,
it's almost like, because I noticed the Tim Burton and Joel Schumacher movies, they constantly rewrote how Bruce Wayne's backstory.
Mm.
And then with Batman Begins, it's like, we're going to do this, but we're going to do it properly, and we're going to make it a whole movie.
Yeah.
And now it's like, anytime anyone else tries to do this again, it's not going to work, because Batman Begins did it right.
Everyone knows it anyway.
Yeah.
If you're going to go see a Batman movie, how do you not know his origin story? I don't know.
Some people don't know for some reason. Right. The cave that imprisons Tony Stark. Oh, sorry. Oh, no, hang on. I haven't said this. I thought I said this. The cave that imprisons Tony Stark was a 150 to 200 yard long set. Which is very, 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 very big.
It was all one piece.
Huh?
It was all one piece.
Yeah, it was between 150 and 200 yards long. If you're a good golfer, you'll hit your driving shot 200 yards. That's how big it is.
Why would you do?
That's a big set.
Yeah.
Where was it?
Which had no idea. Which had built-in movable forks to allow greater freedom for the film's crew. It also had an air conditioning system installed, as production designer J. Michael Rever had learned that remote caves are actually very cold.
Really?
And then this one's quite funny. During filming, a tank accidentally ran over an 8 on 35mm camera.
Oh, wow. Oh, well.
Reminds me of when I went on holiday a few years ago.
A student film, indeed.
We were we were all each of the people that were on the holiday were given these torches, and then I was playing swing ball, and then this car just ran over my torch. And it was on the first day. I'd just gotten it 10 minutes before.
It's broken now.
Although no tank scene will ever be more heartbreaking than when Mr. Bean's car gets run over. That was sad.
Why do bad things happen to Mr. Bean?
Poor bastard. Right.
Nice.
I think it's about time we give our conclusions and ratings out of 10 for Iron Man. So I guess we'll start with Callum. How about you go first?
Right. I think Iron Man, as a starting point for the MCU, is very entertaining, and it establishes a tone and a sort of style that in 2008 was very, I guess, not uncommon, but was very unique to superhero films, and I think everyone very much latched onto that. But nowadays, I think compared to everything else, I think it's not the most forgettable film, but it's definitely, the MCU's improved upon it. But I think there's still a lot of good in here, especially the first 40 minutes is very good. So I think overall, Well, Iron Man is very entertaining. It's not perfect, so I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10.
Okay. Josh.
Like I said before, it was the best film out of Phase 1. It kicked everything off really well as well. Like it got people interested in the genre, I think. Probably more so than The Dark Knight, because I think The Dark Knight was more predominantly for Batman, but Iron Man, especially with that after credit scene, really kind of set people up to gain a greater interest in superheroes and comics and further movies along the track. It definitely could have been better, but at the same time, it could have been a lot worse. And there's obviously flaws. No movie is flawless, but yeah, I mean, I'd give it a 7 out of 10 as well. I think it was definitely a decent starting point for the MCU.
Yeah,
how about you?
I mean, it's interesting because I watched this for the first time last night. It's so weird the fact that I'm watching such a nostalgic movie for so many people, and I haven't seen it until now. So it's strange because I kind of had to like time travel back 10 years to try and imagine what it would be like to watch it then. I think it's a very strong starting point, but I don't know. I don't think that this film is the masterpiece that some people claim it to be. And I think part of the reason why is because this film started such an epic series of films that I feel like it'll get the praise because of that. But even though I haven't seen a lot of MCU films, I have seen some, and I do think that this one really showed me how much they've improved since then. But that being said, it is still a very solid entry. I think it's a great introduction for Iron Man as a character, and it's a very poignant start for the MCU. But as a film on its own, I do think it's good, but not great. So I will also give it a 7.
Yeah, even across the board.
Interesting. I think it's like, is that the first time that on my channel I've ever had that where 3 people have given the same rating out of 10?
It might be. I'm not entirely sure. I've rewatched a lot of it, so maybe, but I think that might be the first time that everybody on a panel discussion has gone the same rating.
Yeah. I mean, because obviously, like, when I think there's been times when if there was 2 of us, we get the same rating, but not 3.
Yeah.
Because it was always like, I remember it was like, there was like one instance where, like, me and Jake both gave a 10 for Parting of the Ways. But then I asked Adam what he would give it, and he said 9, and I was like, you've ruined the
the perfect score is ruined now.
You set the bar pretty high with a 10, mate.
Yeah, but I don't know. It was just like, we almost had all 10s. But I'm sure at some point it will happen. I'm convinced of it.
Yeah. Oh, I'm convinced it will happen as well. 100%.
Yeah.
In game.
Maybe.
I mean, you can hope so.
Well, I mean, I think. Have you guys seen the trailer for the new Joker movie with Joaquin Phoenix?
I watched it yesterday. Yes.
I have very high hopes for that.
That looks really good.
Exceptional. It looks exceptional. It reminds me of like Martin Scorsese films.
Yeah, I'd say so. It's got that sort of to it.
Yeah. I mean, the one thing I would say about that, and I think I've heard a lot of people say, is like, no matter how good it is, it's still not Heath Ledger.
Yeah, and everyone's always going to have that excuse, but you've got to sort of judge it for the actor's performance itself, and
on its own.
And people are always going to compare it to Heath Ledger because it's the same character, but it's going to be a very different movie from Dark Knight. Very different.
Yeah,
because especially when it's about the Joker, not about the Batman against the Joker, it's going to be a completely different film.
Yeah, right. So I mean, I'll just stop recording now because we need to wrap up the actual video. So obviously next time is going to be the Incredible Hulk. I'm probably thinking of doing it tomorrow if I can get anyone on, but we'll see what happens. just gonna roll with it. See what I can organize. But yeah, that'll be the next one because we'll be doing release orders. So see you guys next time for that one.
All right.